Good afternoon from Mickey, Babe, and me. Babe is going to do a babes-it, or a begs-it, however you want to put it. And so I thought I would have Babe tell everybody goodbye, because I don't think Babe is going to be doing any more videos, maybe ever. Oh, isn't she sweet? Fortunately, she's going to be living 5 minutes away from us, and so we will see lots and lots and lots of her. Isn't she adorable? And without further ado, I will put her back and then resume. Well, so now that we are babeless, Mickey and I are going to plunge right in with Perth Aussie, who says, I'm wondering if Harry has joined the polo team to give himself something to appear at, since no invites. Perth Aussie, I think that is actually a very good speculation, because it would appear that Harry needs content and Meghan needs substance, and they need glamour, and they are glamour drains. But Polo is glamorous, and Harry is sufficiently competent that he will be playing, because remember, he's still got a big name. It may no longer be such a good name, but it's still a big name. And there is even speculation that Harry is doing it for something called moolah. Yes, moolah. Well, I think Harry and Meghan are updates on Linda Evangelista, who, if you remember, wouldn't get out of bed for less than $10,000. Well, I think if we add a 0 or 2, we begin to see where Harry and Meghan hope to be heading. So, evidently, the situation deserves watching. Kitty says, Lady C, the polo club where Has Been played last week, posted a photo, I think, on Twitter and called him a people's prince, echoing the title bestowed on Diana, yes, by that Tony Blair, who was, may I interject and say, a superb prime minister until he decided that war criminality was the way to proceed. And despite the protests of hundreds and thousands of Britons, he took us into a war which was completely undeserved and has caused no amount of havoc. Anyway, to resume the sentence, because it was a very good title to bestow upon Diana. Well, I don't know what sort of people they're thinking of. Maybe People Magazine's prince, but it certainly isn't the British people's prince. Maybe they're aiming to be the American people's prince. Interesting that, no? The Prince of America in a republic. Do you think it was the club's marketing or Has Been requested them to address him as such, trying to solidify his image as the royal, big block capitals, in the US, so that when the Cambridges visit, he will be pushing himself as the real royal? I mean, we know his antics on presenting himself and his wife as the real royals are pathetic. But he just can't stop selling his mum's memory while acting as if he is the only one who actually knew or respected her. Also, on the list of names for the future polo games, it looks like he'll be playing polo during the Queen's Jubilee. Hooray! Several exclamation marks. His name was Has Wales. Why is he still using his father's title as his last name? Shouldn't it be Sussex or at least Windsor? Or is he trying to take on this name in the US as well, along with Sussex, so that by the time William becomes the Prince of Wales, Has wants to make sure that he'll be known as the Prince of Wales in the US? Again, trying to agitate and hurt his father and brother at the same time. I hope you will address and clarify this for us. Thank you. Well, I have to tell you, Kitty, there are reasons why the viewers on this channel are known as the sharpest intellects on YouTube. And this is living proof of it. Because this question is not only a question, it is full of hypotheses and observations which are extremely perceptive. Yes, their game plan, of course, has always been to push themselves as the royals in the US, of the US, and of the universe, you know. So you'll have the dinky little royals in Britain, the dinky little royals in Sweden, the dinky little royals in the Netherlands, the dinky little royals in Belgium, and then the true royals, has been and never was, in the US of A. Interesting. And he's not Harry, Henry, or anything Wales anymore. He is now Henry or Harry Sussex. He is Henry Windsor, Duke of Sussex, otherwise known as the Duke of Sussex or Harry Sussex. Dukes take as their surname the place name of their primary title. So he's not Harry Dumbarton or Harry Dumbo or Harry Dumber Than Hell or Harry Has Been a complete idiot, now proving that he's graduated to being a complete arse of the highest order, as in jackass. But the reason why I think you have come up with why he's doing it is a very interesting one. And I would actually hypothesize that you are onto something, so that when William becomes Prince of Wales, Harry will have already cornered that market. Who knows? Maybe he's going to copyright the title Prince of Wales in the United States of America, now that he has Wales. He's has been, that's what he is. But your question was really interesting, and thank you for it. Dimitri James says, looking stunning as per the norm, Lady C. Thank you so much, Dimitri James. You know, one of my son's names is Dimitri as well. I'm from Australia, and to hear that putrid woman say she hated every minute of being in Australia on her tour made me sick to my stomach. Wasn't she here representing the Queen of Australia at much cost to the taxpayer, and she had the chops to voice how much she hated it? The Queen must take action in regards to these two clowns. Australia is on the verge of becoming a republic, and if action isn't taken, I don't see us sticking around after Her Majesty passes. Yes, you're right to be outraged. You're absolutely right to be outraged. But it shows not only how mean-spirited, but how small-minded and unimaginative the woman is. If she doesn't get paid directly for it, she thinks it's not worth doing. That's sort of dodgy, isn't it? I rather hope it doesn't extend to all areas of her life. Otherwise, one will actually have to be looking at her with rather beadier eyes than one would like to look at her with. Because as George Bernard Shaw said to the Duchess, "Madam, we have established what you are. We are simply haggling over the price." You know, the Queen is 96 years old. She is winding down. She is, as you can see, fragile health-wise. It is the act of supreme cruelty that Meghan and Harry can be paving her departure with the rough gravel that they paved Prince Philip's. Yeah, Meghan didn't get it. Meghan actually thinks it's all about her. And the irony is, it's now all about her. And she is seen by people universally as deplorable and lacking. And yes, she is deplorable and she is lacking. I don't think the Queen needs to do anything, Dimitri James, more than what she's doing. She's given them enough rope to hang themselves with, and my goodness, are we getting a display of the trapezium that swings back and forth as they go from pillar to post. Whoops, 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 whoops. Real trapeze artists. And their safety net is made of straw. Virginia Conway says, "In my modest opinion, JD's wife and M again have a lot in common. In fact, I would like them to meet for lunch and see who comes out standing." And then a plethora of symbols, which are really rather entertaining. Oh dear, Virginia Conway. I don't think you need to be modest about your opinion, my dear. I think it's one that's shared internationally. I've been looking at some of the court proceedings, and I have to say, for a woman who God made beautiful, she sure knows how to muck herself up, because looking at her, I am repulsed. Those expressions. I mean, how does she manage to get the tip of her chin onto the top of her lip? How does she do it? And the antics and the hyperdrama. I mean, let me tell you something. You're looking at somebody who 6 weeks into her marriage had to have the right side of her face reconstructed. And if I were in a court of law and had to testify as to what happened, I can tell you it wouldn't be that sickening and sick performance that she is giving. She really is a drama queen par excellence, and I don't believe a word that comes out of her mouth, any more than I believe a word that comes out of Meg's babies. And in fact, when I haven't been completely repulsed and think, my God, this is just amazing. How can this beautiful woman end up, because of displaying what she truly is within, come across as hideous and monstrous beyond belief? Physically monstrous, aside from monstrous in every other way. And I have had the reaction that I have had when I looked at the Oprah interview more than once. I start to laugh, and you can see the act, you can see the drama, you can see the articulation and the emoting, and she obviously must have been Stanislavska in a previous life, not Stanislavski, Stanislavska, because I have to tell you, I have never seen a dreadful performance. And if there were raspberries going for Oscars, she should win one that is as big as one of the lapis lazuli bowls in the Winter Palace in St. Petersburg, and they are monumental. Dolores Goonley says, Dear Lady C, as I listen to Amber Heard, I am constantly reminded of the voice of the Marchioness of Montecito. They both scream in their overly dramatic, breathy, teary, yet dry-eyed delivery. I am an actress, and this is my role of a lifetime. I'll say I was naive and tried so hard to please my man, the royal family, but there was no pleasing them. I left because I couldn't take the abuse anymore. Do you see the similarities between the two as they weave their verbal webs? I certainly do, my dear. I certainly do. I think somebody should do a parody of the double act. Meg's baby and Amber Heard. I think somebody should do a double act of them. And I say this as somebody who has lived through. I can't say on YouTube what I have lived through, and I wouldn't wish to repeat it particularly. But it's all there in my autobiography. Well, some of it is there, some of it. Not all. Some of it is there in my autobiography, and some of it, I think, is there in Daughter of Narcissus. And what isn't there, I think, is really just going to have to not be there anywhere. But I will repeat what I said a bit earlier. If I were in court or had to, let me restate that. If I were forced to recount and revisit and relive what I went through on more than one occasion, including the 6-hour experience that landed me in the Lenox Hill Hospital in New York in 1974, where, according to the doctors, one of the doctors, I should say, who saw me, I was black and blue from my neck to my ankles with nowhere to spare. I would not be emoting the way she emotes. When you're speaking the truth, you don't have to make a palaver of it. The truth speaks for itself. And all this histrionic drama and some of the scenarios, I have to tell you, anybody with 3 grains of sense in their head and sufficient discernment as to not get their heart too engaged. Because the problem with the Amber Heards and the Meghan Markles of this world is that they know that if they can hook you in terms of sympathy and suspend your judgment, that you will sympathize with them, because what they describe is so dreadful and so awful that their messages, anybody with a heart has to buy the lie. No, anybody with a brain doesn't buy the lie of a liar. And I'm sorry, I don't believe one word out of Amber Heard's mouth. And I don't believe one word out of Meghan Markle's mouth either. I think they are both pastiches of the highest order. I think if you stripped away what's phony, you would do and end up with what you would end up with: peeling an onion. Absolutely nothing at the end of it all. Julie Quinlan says, part of Amber Heard's opening statement was from the script of the talented Mr. Ripley. Oh, how interesting. That I did not pick up, although I have to say, I think Patricia Highsmith's work is wonderful. And I think the talented Mr. Ripley is, and her series of books on Mr. Ripley, I think they are a wonderful series of books, but I did not pick that up. I'm not surprised, because I think Amber Heard is a very untalented Ms. Ripley. My impression, and let's remember, she has killed Johnny Depp's reputation stone cold. So she has committed the act that he committed literally, but she has done it figuratively. My impression is that when she speaks about the abuse that she suffered, it just sounds to me, in my opinion, that she is transferring the abuse from her to Johnny onto him. That's the oldest trick in the book, my dear. That's what people like that do. The fake crying is hilarious as there are no actual tears. Well, it's also not convincing. I mean, I actually have just said I find some of it laughable, and I actually have laughed out aloud. When I'm not completely repulsed, I laugh, because you either are completely repulsed or you laugh, or then you're totally sucked in and believe that whole line of hogwash. The police have testified that they did not see any marks on Amber. Oh, and the police, of course, are going to take it for Johnny. Everybody's going to take it for Johnny because he's a big star and I'm intent on being a bigger star. And it's not happening. I'm Aqua Woman. Yeah, she certainly is. What a shock. She had spoken about him trashing the apartment on a certain date. What she didn't realize was that there was body camera evidence showing that the apartment on the date she specified showed the apartment had not been trashed. Yeah, well, her scenarios, I have to tell you, don't add up, and she just throws out claims in which, much the same way that Meg's babies. Oh, Mickey, come and bite Mummy. Marty's being very naughty. Marty's doubting that Meg's baby was married by the Archbishop 3 days before she and Harry had to endure that spectacle for the pleasure of the masses. And she just found it odious because she's just such a classy, sort of modest, self-effacing girl from California. Yeah, I don't believe a word of it, as I've said. Yaran Paupo says, or Paupri, I'm not quite sure how it's pronounced. Wasn't it Depp who called for a televised trial? Why? Well, I think Mr. Depp's lawyers have been very clever in calling for a televised trial because you see, the weight of Amber Heard's accusations, listened to and observed, are featherweight. But if you read them in a newspaper, if they were reported upon, without viewing how repellent she is, you would be repelled by the content and actually give her the benefit of the doubt. While observing her, there is no doubt, at least not in my mind. And I will repeat it. I have no sympathy for men or women or anybody who do not live by the precept that my right to hit you ends where your nose begins. Violence in any shape or form is unacceptable if you impose it upon another human being, especially in a marital or conjugal circumstance. Now, if I, this side of my face was reconstructed at the age of 24, and 18 months after the New York episode, I still had, according to my little sister, the marks on my back. I, of course, couldn't see them, which was a fortunate thing. 18 months later, I still had marks on my back. So if I have no sympathy for Amber Heard and think she's a complete concoctor, I don't think that's because I'm being heartless. I think that's because I've been there, seen that, and know what the truth spell sounds like, and also know what the lie sounds like. And I think that Johnny Depp's legal team has been very clever in having it televised because her antics are so bizarre. I mean, all I can say is she must have been a much better actress when she was faking being nice than she is faking being a victim. Nona C says, men who are victims of DV are such because they don't slap the shoe back. They tend to block the blows if they can and leave, all of which JD has done. Even AH has said that he walks away, much to her disgust. Yes, she certainly did. It's there on tape where she's goading him and accusing him of being, and I'm being polite when I say a wuss, because he wouldn't respond. It's there for all of us to hear because she taped it. I mean, what an exercise in disgusting behavior. Chrysula Ioannou says, Johnny Depp has had long-term relationships with women before Amber, and they testified in a British court that he had never been abusive towards them and only spoke positively about their relationship with him. Therefore, his anger towards Amber must be specific towards her and that particular relationship and not all women. That is very interesting. Yes, you're right. Yes, you are right. Roberta Smith says, Miss C. In Jamaica, they'd say Miss G, not Miss C. Thanks for your insights on Depp and Heard. Some commenters have suggested Johnny holds some rage against women because of his mother. This simply is not true. He understood that his mother was deeply troubled and controlled his feelings. His first marriage was 14 years long and by all accounts a very happy one with happy children. If I'm not mistaken, Heard wormed her way in while he was still with Vanessa Paradis. Oh, oh dear, oh dear. Do we have the seductress? I think we do. He bought his mother a house across the street from his own and had caretakers to take care of her. He visited her almost every day and has always said, despite his early tumultuous years with her, that he did indeed love her. I find him a very evolved, caring person. I hardly believe a word that has come out of Amber Heard's testimony. She seems to lie cruelly and quite often. A number of the words and sentences expelled from her have come directly from the scripts of various movies. Well, I mean, let's face facts. She and Meghan understand that there's real life and then there's Hollywood, and Hollywood is infinitely superior. So, oh, Mickey, help Marty. I just felt a stabbing pain and I'm holding the baby and, oh, I'm going to lullaby, lullaby, sing a lie, sing a lie. Oh, goodness, there's a crayon. The maid didn't clean it. Oh, baby, oh, isn't your mummy so special that she spots crayons at the same time that she's having miscarriages? Oh dear, I'm such a special mummy. Yes, well. Of course, you have to know your movies to be able to spot the origins of some of this text, which I'm afraid I don't know to that extent. But fortunately, others do. And for that, I thank you. And so to resume, a number of the words and sentences expelled from her have come directly from the scripts of various movies. Quite shocking to recognize. I think she has some serious problems revolving around her emotions. Well, truth is not an emotion, my dear. Whether the jury will be able to decipher this, I do not know. She has provided little real evidence other than her own biased words. All I do know is that Johnny Depp's many witnesses have so far all said what a good, kind and generous human being he is. He seems like a very good man who is being wronged by a very manipulative, vengeful woman. I wish Mr. Depp well. Well, I have read this out Roberta Smith or Smythe. I'm not quite sure which one because it has a Y but no E. So I've read it out because you have added to our dossier of knowledge. Well, certainly to my dossier of knowledge. And I agree. You know, the problem with fantasists is they can't tell the difference between fantasy and reality, but they want to cram their filthy version of their reality down our throats and expect it to glide down. Well, I'm sorry, muck doesn't glide down a throat smoothly. Ingrid Self says, dear God, With the debacle defamation case that is currently going on, one can only cower at the thought of the future H&M cases. I'm delighted to hear what you said about Prince Charles trying to make his marriage work. I always wondered how he could have turned into such a monster as his first wife described him as being. Another thing I can't work out is if M was friends with Princess Eugenie and Beatrice, can't remember which, it was Eugenie, how has she never heard about Harry? Well, my dear, it's very simple. She'd never heard about Harry because she really didn't realise that there was a British royal family. Even though she had books on the British royal family, she evidently studied My Royal Diana like a textbook, and in fact, I gather it's taught in various American universities as a set piece. So, I don't think it was taught when she was at university, however. But, well, what can I say? She didn't know who Prince Harry was. She knew nothing about the royal family. She looked at Diana's funeral. She was so unmoved by it. And this is really interesting and shows where her lie makes no sense. She was so moved by Diana's funeral that she must be the only person on earth who didn't remember the two young sons aged 15 and 13 walking behind the coffin. I think Harry was actually just short of his 13th birthday, if I remember correctly. He was just about to turn 13. She doesn't remember that. She didn't know who Prince Harry was. She had no idea. She didn't do any research. She was friendly with Eugenie, but had no idea who Harry was, except to ask, is he nice? In other words, is he malleable? Am I going to be able to run rings around him? Am I going to be able to put a ring in his nose and pull it, and then transfer the ring elsewhere, so that he will step up to the plate willingly, voluntarily, happily, dully, as opposed to brightly, but like the automaton he has become. Ben White says, "Good morning from British Columbia, Lady C. Love listening to your opinions and wisdoms. Thank you." Thank you. That's very kind of you. I write again reflecting on the situation with the devious duo and H's possible roasting of Camilla. I say again, the longer these pieces of trash continue, they only make themselves and the memory of Diana worse all the time. Since her death, she has gone from being Saint Diana, done in by the terrible RF and her nemesis Camilla, but as the years go by, the public sees more of the real person as the glamour withers away. She was not perfect for sure, no one is. I'm glad you said that, no one is. When she certainly had her failings, but she had her virtues. But over the last couple of years, thanks to Smegs trying to become Diana #2, it seems every little shortcoming is becoming a news highlight, to the point she is now being remembered as a rather troubled, not very likable woman, including preying on other women's husbands. Her parenting skills have become rather questionable too now, in my opinion, thanks to Harry whining on and telling tall tales about his childhood. Does it not seem that the more they beat the Diana drum, like they own her entire past, their shortcomings become hers too? Princess Diana is being markled from the grave. Quite a sad ending to her memory and legend. Have a nice day. Well, I have to say, Bev White, I couldn't agree more. You have yet again brought a new dimension to the whole debate, and you're absolutely right. The more Harry and Meghan trade upon Diana, is the more they debase and cheapen her memory and her legacy. And it is inevitable that that will continue as long as they continue, because they're using counterfeit coinage. And counterfeit coinage does not translate well at the Bank of Life. However, there is one good result. It shows that Prince Charles was not quite as bad as Diana and her cohorts, the press, even though they knew that Diana was problematic. They didn't care, as they were selling newspapers to the detriment of his well-being and his mental health as well, and his reputation. But the more the truth emerges, is the more people will realize that Prince Charles, although not perfect, really was nowhere near the terrible husband or person Diana and the press at her behest made him out to be. I know a lot of people think that Diana was this sweet and innocent 19-year-old, and that Prince Charles was a 30-whatever-year-old who was taking advantage of her. First of all, she was a lot more worldly wise than he was, let me tell you. She'd been brought up in the school of hard knocks. He hadn't. But you want to know what happened? Read my book, The Real Diana. I'm not regurgitating yet again for what really happened. Anita Wilkinson said, "It is said that Harry paid for his wife to hire somewhere to celebrate Thanksgiving with her family when he was on an official Caribbean tour. Is this true? Why would he pay for something like that if later he said about the family she never had? What family did she invite to later snub for the spectacular that took place after the private ceremony for them alone in the garden? Curious, isn't it?" Yes, it is curious. And Anita Wilkinson, you're absolutely right. Harry was in St. Lucia. I happen to know he was in St. Lucia because I know people from St. Lucia. And indeed, Harry opened up a race course in St. Lucia that has rocked certain boats in St. Lucia, because there were all sorts of big plans, none of which have materialized. But yes, while Harry was in St. Lucia, aiding and abetting and opening up racing, betting situations of some dubious nature, Meghan was in the United States, if I recall correctly, and Harry hired a venue for a Thanksgiving, if I'm not mistaken. dinner with her parents. He never met the father, but the father and mother were there. So it is safe to assume that at that point, Meghan hadn't taken out her knitting yarn and embroidered the whole concoction that she's come up with latterly about her father. Otherwise, Harry wouldn't have been paying to hire a venue and lay on a Thanksgiving meal for her two parents and her. Yeah. Well, it is curious, isn't it? Because in those days, Harry believed that Meghan loved her parents enough to want to spend Thanksgiving with them. I mean, he must be really so, as Mr. Trump would say, whipped. Meow, meow, Mickey, call Kitty, Mickey, come on, pussy, come over here, come on, come, pussy, come on, kitty, Mickey, get Kitty to come here. Sorry, Kitty isn't coming. Surprise, surprise. Harry has no discernment, no judgment, and was so desperate to have a family that he chose so ill-advisedly, and he has gone along with the ride that has gone like this. Down, down, down. Ups and downs, but all heading downwards. Yes, it is curious. And it's a damning indictment of Harry's lack of discernment and his inability to add up 2 and 2 and come up with 4, or to match up one lie with another and not understand that the liar is the person telling the lie. Albert Duro says, I really love your style. Thank you. Me being 33 wouldn't mind to wear exactly like you. Thank you very much. 40 years difference. I'm from Spain, so not so invested in royal life in my country, and I lived in Jamaica as well. Oh, interesting, because I love the music and culture in general. I would love to have a Lady C here in Spain. By the way, what do you think about La Reina Letizia? Won't be offended anyways in case you don't have a good opinion. I myself see her as a serious lady and quite rigid, as she does not leak much tea as Nutmeg does. Being an example of what not to be is also a good way to teach. Thank you for your opinions and your sense of dignity. Thank you for your very nice comments. I think Queen Letiizia, and I'm using the British pronunciation. Sorry, I'm not Spanish. I don't speak about Paris and München. I speak about Paris and Munich. So I'm speaking about Queen Letiizia. I think she's a little bit thin, quite frankly. But I think she's a very good-looking woman. I think she dresses beautifully. I think she does it on a very slender budget, which is all to her credit. I think she comports herself very well as a good professional queen. Both my son's godfather is a member of one of the greatest of the Spanish noble families. And I know the inside track on the whole of their relationship, the way the people feel about her uh, from various walks of life. I think she and Camilla have parallels. I think each of them was regarded as unsuitable, and they have stepped up to the plate very well. I have a lot of respect for her, and I'm not going into any of the issues that take place in families and all of that. I am just saying that she is a brilliant professional queen, and I also think it's good that she is a middle class girl because she makes the Spanish monarchy more relatable, because Spain has for 2 centuries had a strong republican movement, and I actually have come latterly in life to believe that constitutional monarchy is the best form of government, and that republican forms of government, no matter how effectively they perform, ultimately do not perform as well as a constitutional monarchy over generations. Let's put it that way. So I have a lot of time for Queen Letizia. I think she does a wonderful job, very well. So on that note, I will say thank you very much for listening. I hope this has been of some interest to you. If it has, please like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, and remember, keep the comments and questions coming in, because this can't be done without you. We are chatting, and I cannot chat alone. God bless and goodbye.